Good morning, everybody, and welcome to September. So, for some of you, it might be back to school already. For me, this is the last day of the school holidays, and school starts tomorrow. Um, and actually, this is quite good timing in terms of today's talk, which is to help you get a bit better at managing your time and setting yourself a weekly schedule, and maybe a monthly one and an annual one, but to help you feel a bit more organized and on top of things, getting back into a rhythm, but hopefully a better one that works for you even more than it normally does. I know over the summer things can feel sometimes a little chaotic, particularly if you do have children and our normal routine isn't there. And I've certainly noticed it myself. But having said that, some of the systems that I've put in place over the last year has really helped me keep business ticking over whilst doing a lot less over the summer. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. And really, so our focus today is about having some scheduled time to work on your business. So very often when we're self-employed, and especially if you're not necessarily a full-time yoga teacher, it's easy to think that your working hours are the classes that you teach, and maybe a bit of travel time either side, and maybe a little bit of lesson planning. And outside of that, we don't always recognize the work that we do or the work that we need to do. And if you're anything like me, I think for a long time, when I was looking at my working hours as being, when I'm seeing people one-to-one, when I'm doing classes, and sort of being aware of other things that need doing. But because those things weren't directly giving me money, so I wasn't getting, nobody was paying me directly to write a newsletter or do marketing or update my accounts or my website and all of those things, they kind of got a little bit pushed down my list of things to do. There was always more important things in the moment to be getting on with. And I think also there can be that mental block around carving out time for things which you're not immediately being paid for. And certainly when you're in a family or in a relationship, that can also be part of the mix as well. When other people are saying, well, if you're not busy right now, I really need this, or can you do that? And it can be hard sometimes to push back on those things and say, oh, well, but I'm busy doing these things, these admin tasks, these things that are important to keep business going. And so I'm going to, hopefully by the end of today, you'll feel a bit more confident and determined to have a bit of time that's carved out that is respected as your working time, because these are the things that can really grow and develop your business. And in the long run, they are the things that get you paid. So we need to do all of these things for our business to be functioning well. And really, in my experience, delivering the class has sort of been the fun and the easy bit, and it's all the stuff around it that's really important to help those classes really work. And so I think it can be helpful, as a self-employed person, to think about the different roles that we have. So because we do everything, the boundaries can get a bit blurred between, all the different roles that we might have within our business. But we pretty much are every department in our business. You know, we are the owner, the manager, or the director of our business. We are also the admin department and the marketing department, and to some extent the accounts department. You know, we are all of these different things, and these things can get blurred. But they're all important. So if you think of your business more like a larger company, there's a very different role between the employees who are delivering the service that the company does. And so that would be teaching the class, doing the one-to-one, that's delivering what the business is offering its clients. Behind the scenes, there's all the admin that needs to happen to make that possible. And then over the top of all of that, there is the owner, the manager level, who's steering the whole direction of the business. And you really need to have time for these other areas, because otherwise then the frontline delivery of service is going to suffer, or it's not growing, or you don't end up doing the things that you have kind of set your heart on. You know, you might have this dream to create something, or think, oh, one day I'll get around to writing a book, or yeah, I'd really love to run some international retreats, or oh, I'd really love to create you know, an online library of classes, you know. And in the short run, creating all these things, setting up all the systems, doing everything that's required, you don't get paid directly immediately. These are things that you get the income later down the line. But if we don't set dedicated time to make these things happen, then they tend to not happen. And then we can just get stuck in this cycle of, you know, sort of chasing business, chasing our own tail, feeling like we're overwhelmed with admin, and that slight sense of panic of like, oh my God, I haven't posted anything on social media for ages. What am I going to do? And, you know, or the classes are not very busy. You know, I better quickly try and do some marketing or contact people. So what we really want is to get systems in place where there's ongoing things that happen, so that our admin and marketing departments, as it were, are doing their job, so that the frontline delivery of classes and services, you know, we have this stream that's feeding through. And we also need the overall direction. So I know all of that can sound a bit overwhelming, and you might feel like you don't have time for this. So what I'm talking through today are a few tips to help you feel like you're a little bit more in charge of your whole business and teaching career, rather than sort of at the mercy of everyone around you. And, you know, a common mistake, and I did it for years, and it's what kept me stuck for a long time, is to think that, you know, I started to learn all the things that needed doing, as well as just, you know, being a great therapist or yoga teacher. There's all these other things as well. And so I would think, oh, well, I'll do that when I have some free time. But of course, the free time doesn't really show up that often, you know, and particularly as we get older and have more responsibilities, there's always a million things on your to-do list. Free time doesn't really ever happen, as far as I can see. Like, it doesn't just spontaneously appear of, oh, I've got a few hours and I've literally nothing to do. So we really need to carve out this time and boundary it, and let people in our lives know that this is work time. And although it's not you going out and teaching or going on Zoom and teaching, this is still work time, in the way that people who have an office job, they're sat at their desk, they're working. and probably what they're doing isn't directly necessarily getting the business they work for. It might not be billable time, but they're essential things that the company needs. And in the same way for our business, there are essential tasks that need to happen to make the whole thing be successful. So if we're just relying on waiting for pockets of free time to show up, it's unlikely that you're going to get enough time. It can then feel like it's a bit of a last minute rush. And so we might not be in the real headspace to do the tasks that need doing. It's not very structured and planned. So we tend to then not feel in control of things. And what I noticed as a really key thing is I couldn't really enjoy any kind of free social time, like my non-work time. I had this nagging weight of, oh, but it's been ages since I sent a newsletter and they still haven't got around to this. And oh, I was planning to, create a whole new thing and I've still not got around to that. And so, the weight of all the things that I hadn't got round to or that were outstanding would spoil like my social time or days out. I would feel this constant tug of, oh, but I should be doing something else as well. And equally, when I was working, then you can feel the guilt of like, oh, but I should be doing fun things with my kids or seeing friends or, all of these things. There is this tension and a tug of war that can happen. And that's just draining and it kind of sucks the joy out of what we do. So what I've found that really works for me is to really schedule in regular tasks. And so they're in my diary. So when I'm planning ahead of things that I want to do, that I know when I've got genuine free time and when I've got some scheduled admin time, and knowing that I have this time set out and it's planned and it's in my diary, that first of all, I won't forget to do things. And certainly in perimenopause, this has been a godsend that I have things in my diary. On this Monday, I need to write the newsletter for the following month. So it's all done in advance and scheduled. So there's not a last minute panic. And then I don't forget. And often when I'm looking through my diary, maybe trying to book something in, get, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing that day. Okay, well then I can schedule this other thing afterwards. So things that I might do on a monthly basis, they might just slip out of my consciousness for a while, but because I've written it in the diary and I've given myself some time to do it. So that's one big thing, is you feel organized, you won't forget things. There's a peace of mind of knowing that you've scheduled these things in. So you can start to feel like you're steering things a little bit more. So the sorts of regular tasks that I might put in my diary, and you may have different things for you, but ongoing things that can be useful, things like your bookkeeping, keeping track of who's paid what, where they are, if they bought a block of classes, making sure that your basic income and expenses are up to date on an ongoing basis. Then it's quite easy to see what your profit margins are, how much you're allowed to pay yourself, how much you might need to set aside for tax. And then at the end of the year, there's not this massive panic to get your accounts done. Ongoing things like email inquiries, follow up with some students, these ongoing communications is a regular thing. You might have a blog, so you might want to write a blog post once a month. Newsletters, I think, are a really good idea. So, making sure your mailing list is up to date, writing, scheduling newsletters on a regular basis. So, they go out on, second Thursday of every month, or however it is you want to do it. You might want to do them fortnightly. You might want to do little short ones once a week. However you do it is fine, but decide what your strategy is, plan it, schedule it, and stick to it. And particularly with things like newsletters, this has made a massive difference to me. I went from sending one maybe quarterly, if I was lucky. Blog posts were random, and really not regular enough. But now that I've scheduled stuff in and I just know this is a job that needs to happen, I've already planned out like a year in advance rough topics for each month, so I have a little bit of inspiration. Often it's seasonal, so I have a little list that's got a couple of words for each month, like a little focus point. So when I sit down to write it, I'm not just staring at a blank screen with no idea what to put down, which can very easily happen. So there's a little plan there. I know the dates that they're supposed to go out. And so this, and I give myself a set amount of time, because it can be very easy to spend hours and hours and hours doing things, trying to make it perfect when it doesn't need to be that long. So this is the thing with scheduling. It's like, okay, I've got 90 minutes to write and schedule this thing. Let's just get on with it. Then it's done. And these are the things then that have really given me a lot more peace of mind, and knowing that I feel a bit more organized, knowing that I'm a little bit ahead of myself sometimes, knowing that I've already prepped in advance the following month. So like these talks that I do every week, they get scheduled a month in advance. So I know what I'm doing each day. I know that they're done. It's not a last minute panic. So these are the sorts of things that I'd encourage you to have a look at. What are regular things that you do, within your business? So that can be from managing your bookings and student communications and payments. It might be that you record your classes and you want to put them on YouTube or Vimeo or something. So you need time to upload those, and maybe, put some SEO tags in there and write a description. This is an ongoing bit of admin that you might need to be doing. I've mentioned things like blogs and newsletters. You want to give yourself time to do a bit of lesson planning, and other admin tasks, like, you might still be getting like physical post to deal with. There can be things like paying bills, renewing subscriptions, all of those sorts of things. So scheduling some time for your admin can really help you feel on top of things, and make sure you don't miss important things, so that we don't forget to renew our insurance, for example, or just keeping a note of our CPD over the year and whether we need to top up a little bit. So all of those things are really important. And then, so I generally, like, Monday's my admin day, so I do not teach, I do not do one-to-ones. I have the length of the school day to get my admin done. So that gives me about 6 hours. Where I can get through a lot, and I know that that's a day that I'm not going to teach or do one-to-ones. So for me, that's how it works. I like to have a long headspace to get into a certain mode. You may work differently and your life is different, but I really recommend you have a chunk of time, or 2 small chunks of time in the week, to get some of your admin done. And what this does for me is it frees up my other time. So because I know I've got dedicated admin time and it's limited, that, and there's deadlines, like there's all of these things, like there's accountability that I've built in for myself, where I know that these things are going to be done and they'll be done on time, so that in that evening or other time, which is not my work time, I can really enjoy it, because I know these things are, they're all in hand. So it does free up more time, and it allows me to enjoy the free time that I have. So when it's really boundaried, I tend to be much more productive. When I have a deadline, it makes me work a bit quicker. It makes me finish things. Open-ended tasks tend not to get finished. And what you might find is that there are things that you have wanted to do that you go, oh, I still haven't got around to this. Oh, yeah, I haven't quite had time to do that. It's so easy for that to happen. Just life is full and busy. There's lots of demands on our time. So we just need to, carve out a little time and be boundaried, and really honor that with yourself and with your business. Like, this is important work, and it deserves the time and attention. And this is, and it can be hard working at home. I'm looking around the room I'm in at the moment, I can see a million things that need doing. But for me, when I have this boundary time, it's like the laundry can come later, the washing up can come later, like all the other stuff in the house can come later. This is my admin time, and I need to get it done before I do the school pickup. And then after that's when I can deal with other stuff. So it gets done in a way that it never was before. I always had these unfinished things on the go that I often didn't get round to finishing, or when I did get round to finishing, the time had passed and it wasn't so relevant. So I'd get halfway through a newsletter, get pulled away to something else, or lose a bit of inspiration thinking I'll go back and finish it. And then by the time I did get back to finish it, there was a kind of a time relevant thing that had passed, and then it felt like it wasn't appropriate to send. So excuse me. So these things where we've got this scheduled time really makes a difference. And the other thing that I think is really important to also carve out time for are the business owner kind of director level tasks. And these are the times where you can do a monthly or quarterly review of your business as a whole. This is where we step back and have an overview of everything, and we check, are we still online for the goals that we've set ourselves? Or maybe that's the time where we do set ourselves a goal. This is all the planning, the vision, the overall direction. It's the reflection on what's working, what's not working, where we need to, perhaps work a bit more in one area than another, when it's time to perhaps do a complete rehaul of the website. These are the times where you might decide there's a class that you need to let go of. This might be the time where you change your marketing strategy, and these are the things where you're having that overview and you think, oh, this used to be working really well, and maybe this class is now getting a bit quiet. What's going on there? And that's where you can then set a new strategy or set some new tasks. And some of those tasks might then go into your regular admin day, but you need that time as a business owner to be working on the business, so that you're not always just on that employee level of delivering the service. We also need that time to step back and look overall. where do we want our work to be this time next year? Where would you like it to be in 5 years' time? Are there big ambitions that you have? What direction do you want to grow in? Do you want to become a specialist in a certain area? And these are the things that we also need time for, because if we're trying to squeeze those things into 5 minutes between school drop off and rushing to a class, we're not going to get that sort of vision. We need to have the time at least once a month to really step back and have that overview of how things are going, to maybe look over the last 3 months of your income and see, okay, well, what are the things that are really working well? What are the things that are not so profitable? Do we want to put more time and energy into the things that are not so profitable to make them better? Or is that, is that going to be an inefficient use of your time, and maybe focusing it on some of the things that are working well? Reflecting on what is it that you love the most, all of these things. So we need to also have that time to work on your business. So for me, that's what my Wednesdays are. And again, I have that school time. That's where I see my business mentor. That's where I might book meetings to network with other people. We need to have this space in our diary that we can do those kind of director level things in our business, where we can be, those networking things can make a huge difference in business opportunities. It might be, where we're perhaps interviewing people that we might want to hire into our business. So I now have a virtual assistant who, does a few hours for me every month, and that frees up my time to do other things. It might be where we do an overview of all of our expenses, and we might set ourselves a marketing budget. It might be the time where we're looking at our overall vision and looking at new skills that we might need. So all of these kind of overarching business tasks that are going to help us really achieve the goals that we set. And again, this has made such a huge difference for me. I think in years past, I had all these ideas of what I could see myself doing in the future, but never really got focused and organized enough to really make those things happen in a structured, directed way. And because I didn't have that time working on the business, I was just responding to inquiries, requests, kind of saying yes to everything that might pay me, but without really having a focused direction. And so that means that you end up sort of meandering all over the place and not really going anywhere. So, it would be lovely for you to avoid that whole process that I went through, and get some clarity. And it can feel scary to carve out a day or two a week where you are not teaching, you're not doing one-to-ones, you're not kind of doing these things that feel like they get you paid. And I know how that feels as a self-employed person. But I have been way more successful since I started doing that. And I think it's really helpful for clients as well, and for students, for you to be really clear about when you're available. And I do make sure that I have availability on different days. Sometimes it's morning, sometimes it's afternoon, sometimes it's evening. I do work every other Saturday. So I really try to make sure I have enough availability to meet the needs of different people. And that gives me a little bit of peace of mind as well, knowing that I'm doing what I can. But also, it doesn't help business to be available 24/7. I think there's something about how professional and boundaried it seems to say these are the times that I'm available, and you don't have to tell people that it's your admin time or your business development time. It's just like, I'm fully booked on these days. I have ongoing commitments. I'm not available on those days. And Sunday is a day that I never work. And I'm quite clear with people who might say, oh, I don't suppose you're available on Sunday for a one-to-one. And in the past, that's tempting because you think, oh, it's a bit of extra income that week. But it eats into your energy, your time. You know, when boundaries get blurred, everything gets messy and things can get unfocused and we can end up burning out. So I think my clients really respects the fact I say, no, Sundays I don't work. It's a family day. It's just out of bounds. That's sacred to me. And these are the sorts of things that I'm trying to impart to my students as well, is, you know, that we all need to have boundaried time for work, for rest, for play, for all of these things. So hopefully that's giving you a little bit of resolve to carve out a bit of time for yourself, and make that a sacred time. Like, your business deserves that time and attention, and it can only grow if you give it that. If you think of any other business, you know, preferably outside of any yoga, healthcare, therapy work, but just think of a regular business. If that business never had, you know, board level meetings to discuss the overall health and direction of the company, if they didn't have regular dedicated admin and marketing going on, and all they had were the frontline delivery and no back office, how long is that business going to survive? And how would it ever grow beyond being a startup? So we really need to value these other tasks. And I know some of them might not feel fun. We get into teaching because we love the teaching side of things. But when we get these things working for us and we don't feel so much at the mercy of them, it actually has brought much more joy into my work and reduced my overall stress levels. It's freed up more time. So I can, with a clear conscience, book in, you know, if I've managed to get ahead of myself on my tasks that need to be done for that month, and then I can book in coffee with a friend and really enjoy it and go, oh, I've already written everything for this month. So I really do have more free time, and I know when my next deadlines are for other things. So if you set yourself a deadline and meet it, then you know that your free time really is free and you can really enjoy it. So hopefully that will help you get a little bit more organized, take some of the stress and anxiety out of all of the admin business side of things, and help you have more free time and enjoy it even more. And just as a final note, if you feel like you really need help with these sorts of things and you would like some one-to-one work, then I do offer one-to-one mentoring. You can have a look on the Yoga for Cancer website. So if you want to have some help just getting a bit more on top of everything and creating this structure and these boundaries so that you can be much more efficient and have much more free time, then yeah, do drop me a message and we can take it from there. So I'm going to wish wish you a very lovely rest of the week, and I'll be here same time next week. Take care.